she's the expert, and she's the one you're here to listen to. So Taylor, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Amber. So we are talking about our virtual job fair today and about how to prepare for that job fair, as well as for even for other job fairs that might be happening in the future here at Amarillo College, or just local job fairs that you might see around. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is just how to work specifically a virtual job fair, because that's the fair that we have coming up on Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. But again, this we're hoping will be lasting, that this can be really great tips that you can take for job fairs that might happen whenever they may happen. So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, we're going to talk about really how to prepare for job fairs. But some of you might not have even been to a job fair before. I remember I didn't go to my first job fair until I was a sophomore in college. And so I was completely unaware of what to expect. So we'll first talk about just job fair basics of what a job fair is. And then we're going to go into virtual job fairs and how that differs from in person. And then lastly, we'll talk about do's and don'ts for preparing for a virtual job fair. That also classifies for preparing for in-person job fairs. So let's go ahead and dive into just job fair basics and as to what a job fair is. So what is a job fair? So a job fair is a place where you can meet employers, you can browse companies and jobs, engage in informational interviews, possibly get an interview with an employer, and possibly even get a job, right? And then again, I'd like to emphasize that these are possiblies. It's a possibility that you could get a job from one of these fairs because you are in direct contact with employers. So what these typically look like is where you've got, a bunch of people are in a room set up at tables with different companies. And you get to go around the room and you get to say hi and you get to talk to employers and really browse companies and jobs. So you might be a certain major and you might really not know what to do with your major, right? Or you might be like, I don't even know what jobs are out there right now. What these job fairs can do is you can look at companies and look what jobs that they're looking for. And you can get to meet them and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for in a job. And that company might have it and they might not. And then you can move to the next one if they have it or if they don't. So you're asking questions. So these informational interviews is where you're getting to ask questions. You might already know what you're looking for. So say you're an English major and you're looking for a student worker position, or you're looking for maybe like an internship where you can help edit or intern or something, right? Help with publishing. That's kind of what you're wanting. So then you can go to companies that might have something to do with that, right? That are at the fair. But that's what you're there for, is to meet employers and to hopefully get an interview or possibly even get a job. That's kind of the goal of a job fair. And all this kind of sounds up in the air, but this is really what it looks like whenever you're in person, right? So you can see from this image, there's lots of tables set up. There's people walking kind of in the aisles, and that's what you're going into whenever you're going into a job fair. Some job fairs can have 10 companies. Some job fairs can have over 100 companies. It really depends on the job fair that you're going to, and it depends on the organization you're going to that fair with, right? So in Amarillo, the Civic Center will have job fairs. Texas Workforce Commission will have job fairs. Other places and institutions will have job fairs. And depending on what they're looking for and what the nature of the job fair is, depends on the amount of employers that are there. But this is what the in-person setup looks like if you've never been to one. I remember my first job fair was in Lubbock, and it was in a hotel ballroom. And I remember walking into the doors and being like, oh my gosh, I was overwhelmed. There were over 150 employers at this job fair. Yikes, that's a bunch of employers to try to talk to every single one of them, right? So make sure that before you go in, you are prepared and know which employers are going to be there, or even a good scope of how many. And we'll talk about preparation a little bit later. But this is what a general in-person setup looks like. So how does an in-person job fair work, right? So again, we're talking about in-person. We're going to get to virtual in just a second. So what you do first, you walk in the doors, right? You check in with the fair host and you say, hi, here for the fair. Typically you get a name tag, you say hi, might have your major on there if you're in school, right? You check in with the host, and then they usually will give you a piece of paper that has the companies on it and possible job positions they have open, or even majors that they're looking for. And they might even, some fairs, if you're lucky, they even have a map of where everybody is, which is super helpful. Next, you move from table to table and you chat with employers using your 30-second commercial. And you might be like, Taylor, I don't know what that is. That's okay. We'll talk about 30-second commercials when we talk about preparation. But that's what you do. You move to table and you can ask questions that you come prepared to ask. So you know what you want. You're, in this position, you might be like, okay, I'm going to this job fair. And what you want might just be to learn. You might not really be looking for a job, or you might not be looking for an internship, but you want to practice. That was why I went to my first job fair. That note was required for a class, but you're just going to learn, and that might be it, and that's okay. But if you are looking for a job or for an internship, know what you're looking for, or know what you want, and also keep an open mind. Something that you talk to an employer about, you might be like, I didn't imagine myself doing that, but I would like to try, right? So come prepared with questions, know kind of what you're looking for, and be open to other discussions. Pass out resumes and sell your brand. So at an in-person job fair, you have a piece of paper and you hand your resume to an employer. It's printed out, it's on resume paper, and you can hand it to them. That is your general resume. So if you tuned into any of our resume conversations that we've had in the past, there's differences between a general resume and a functional resume, or a tailored resume, or chronological resume. There's lots of different resumes, but this one is your general, which is just an overview of who you are and what you can do. It's usually 1 to 2 pages, and that's what you pass out at a job fair. And that's what you're selling, is your brand and what you can do. And then lastly, at an in-person job fair, you're collecting business cards, you're collecting information. A lot of times at job fairs, employers will have swag, so stuff we all get, like stress balls or pens or candy or bags or whatever they may have. But you go around and you collect from the companies that you're interested in of what they have, and then they usually have some information to give you as well, either how to apply online, what kind of company they are, etc. That's what they've got. But this is how an in-person job fair works. What we have coming up soon is a virtual job fair. And a lot of the things are the same, but there's a key difference, right? So let's get there. So again, what is a virtual job fair? Same thing, we're meeting employers, we're browsing companies and jobs, we're engaging in those informational interviews, possibly getting interviews with an employer, and possibly getting a job, but it's all in an online setting. So completely virtual, like we're sitting in now, or like the device you might be watching this on, right? You might be on your phone, tablet, computer. That is exactly what this online setting means, right? It's in the virtual world rather than in a, ballroom or a gym, wherever it might be. We are in an online space. So we're virtually meeting employers. We're browsing companies and jobs through video chat, or based by a list that we're given on our main screen, right? That's what we're looking at. We're engaging in information interviews in a virtual format rather than, in a big O room where there's lots of commotion and lots of people. You're one-on-one with an employer because it's in a video chat. It's a one-on-one meeting where you're getting to ask questions and talk to them. And that's awesome because you're getting that really one-on-one contact with the employer rather than having to share it with 3 or 4 other students that might be possibly walking by or trying to talk to the same employer. You get that one-on-one contact. Next, you can possibly get a virtual interview with an employer. They might be like, hey, let's reach out, let's connect later and set up a virtual interview. You've already shown you're comfortable with an online format, right? So now we can get, hopefully, that virtual interview. And then you could possibly get an in-person or a remote job from these virtual job fairs. Those are the goals. So it's all in an online setting. So again, what's the virtual setup? So we're going to be able to screen share our resume with employers, right? So remember in the in-person, we were handing it to them. We might screen share our resume with them, or we could email it to them and say, hey, what's your email? I'll send you my resume, right? We're going to be using it in a virtual setting. And you virtually hop from employer to employer, right? So in person, we're hopping from table to table that are all right next to each other. we're hopping from employer to employer in different rooms that are in a virtual world. Next, you speak with the host as to which employers you want to see. So in our in-person, pretty much the only contact we have with the host is at the beginning, and then maybe at the end if they have you take a survey, right? As for the virtual fair, you might hop in a room with an employer, and then you might get to see the host again. Say, hi, I would like to see this employer now, right? Getting to communicate with the host more, ask questions if you have them, and talking about which employers you want to see. Again, like I said, you get to engage in one-on-one conversations with employers. And again, this might be like, I have to talk one-on-one, can't just blend. Not exactly, right? We get to talk one-on-one. So let's see it as a positive. We get to have those one-on-one awesome conversations with employers. And we'll talk about how to manage those conversations when we get to our preparation piece. And again, all of this is online. So it's from the comfort of your own home. Again, that can come with its own pros and cons being at home, but we can talk about how to mitigate those things being good things rather than negative things. So that's what the virtual setup is. And I'm going to forewarn you, we're going to switch slides pretty crazy because our next slide is going to have instructions on what this specific virtual job fair will look like, but it gets real bright. So forewarning, right? Very bright. So these are the student instructions for our virtual job fair that's going to be next week, June 17th, 2020. So what this will look like, again, is you'll inform the host of the employers or the one employer you want to visit with during the fair, or by chat box, or by verbally talking to the host, right? That's our checking in process. We're like, hey, how are you? Most likely the host will look at your background, make sure you look okay. That way you look professional to be talking with employers. But then you'll say, hey, I want to talk to the Amarillo College Writers Corner. That's the job you're looking for, is the student worker position open. And so we'll say, great, we'll put you into that breakout room. And so then you'll click that join breakout room. Again, all of these instructions will be pulled up during the fair, so don't like scribble notes or anything. So whenever you're looking at that, you'll join the room, and then you'll be able to talk with them for 1 to 3 minutes or until the conversation wraps up. The employer will be informed if there's somebody behind you like waiting to speak with them as well. So you can talk as long as you need to make sure that the conversation is fruitful. Next, whenever you're done, you click the leave room icon, and then you leave room. So don't click leave meeting. That'll kick you out of the whole fair altogether. We don't want that. Next, you'll tell the host the next employer you want to see, and then you repeat the process. So that's our hopping from table to table, is we're doing it in a virtual format. Depending on whichever company this is going through, it can look different. But typically, that's what it looks like, is you're hopping from room to room, employer to employer. Again, that's what it'll look like. And then when you can leave the room or leave the meeting, and then you're finished. Back to darkness. That white one's a little bright. You can see why I like to use AC blue rather than bright white. So now that we've talked about just what a job fair is and how a virtual job fair is different, that way we can just decrease our anxiety and make sure that we are super prepared and super ready and we feel confident. Let's feel even more confident with the preparation that we do. Let's talk about preparation do's and don'ts. So first, do your homework for the fair. So do your homework. Know which employers are coming. And thankfully for you, we have all of this conveniently located on our website at actx.edu/career. And then you'll click that first box that says now hiring virtual job fair. And it's all right there. All of the employers that are coming and even some of the jobs that they're offering. So as of now, which is June 8th, right? 2020, we only have 4 employers, which is awesome. However, we usually get our last set of employers within the week before the fair. So keep checking on that link, keep looking, and we might have even more employers there that are ready for you. But know what employers are coming and also know what jobs are open. With this specific fair, it's called our Now Hiring Job Fair. So employers actually have jobs open that they're looking to fill. How cool is that? So most times job fairs, they might just be coming just to introduce their company or just to chat or just to, kind of collect resumes or collect information. This one, they actually have jobs that they're looking to fill with Amarillo College students. They're coming for you. That's pretty cool. So check out the College Central Network for job positions that are open before the fair. So that way you're like, okay, I know this position's open. I know this position's open with X companies. If you have questions about College Central Network, contact our office or check out that COVID-19 webinar that we did a few weeks ago. It also has information on College Central Network as well. So do your homework. Know what employers are coming and know what jobs are open. Promise you won't hear me say, you'll hear me say that quite a few times. So make sure you know this information. Do your homework. Don't look unprofessional, right? So this is a big do not. This is a job fair, right? So dress professionally. If this is an in-person job fair, you'd be in business professional, right? Slacks, button up, blazer or suit. Ladies might be in, professional skirt or blouse and blazer, whatever that might be. If this was in person, you'd be head to toe, like ready to go, right? Same thing for a virtual job fair. Virtual job fair also need to be business professional, right? Need to have a nice professional top, make sure your hair is washed, clean, men, make sure you're shaven, make sure that you are professional, you look professional. So they can tell if you don't wash your hair. I promise you that. Make sure that you are clean, you're prepared, and you're ready to go as if it were an in-person job fair. You're meeting employers. Make sure you look great, right? There's a job at stake. Look business professional, at least business casual. Something that I like to mention in a virtual format, make sure that you wear solid colors. Make sure you're not wearing a shirt that's really distracting. And if you have a patterned shirt, like you see the one I have on, it's covered by a darker jacket or blazer, right? We don't want to wear something that's like super colorful or super patterned because it can look strange on the video and it can be distracting. And we don't want to distract from your qualifications and from who you are just based by a shirt, right? So make sure you put your best foot forward. I want to make sure that this is not social media. This is not a time where, hop on the fair with your cell phone being like, hey, employers. Not the time, right? The time, if you need to use your phone, that's okay, but try to use a stand, keep your camera still, make sure that you can enjoy the conversation and not be worried about having to hold your phone or your phone shifting everywhere. This is not a chat with friends or family, right? So make sure you're not wearing t-shirts or comfy clothes. You are ready to go. And this is not an excuse to wear your PJs. Like I said, this fair gets to be from the comfort of your own home. Not an excuse to wear a pajama tank top or a pajama shirt or to look unprofessional. This also includes checking your background. Make sure the background that you have behind you is either just a blank wall or something that is very clean, right? We don't want, have, a bunch of wine bottles in the background or any kind of random thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that by any means, but every person has something called an unconscious bias. And they might not like you just based by that unconscious bias. And it's nothing that they meant to do, but they might be like, well, I just didn't have a good feeling about it, right? And that could be because of your background or because you wore a pajama shirt, right? Make sure we're making sure that our job performance and our job capabilities are shining through. That way there's nothing hindering in the background or based by what we're wearing. So don't look unprofessional, do look professional. Our next one is know your 30-second commercial. And this applies for in-person fairs as well as virtual job fairs. And I'd be like, okay, we talked about this earlier, know your 30-second commercial. What is it? Let's talk about that. So with our 30-second commercial, we break that into 3 parts. We break it into a past, present, and future. So with that past, present, and future, we combine this into our 30-second commercial. So first we start with, where are you from, right? Where did you go to school and what things were you involved in? If you're graduated, where did you go to school? Did you just finish AC? What happened? Are you currently in school? What's your major? What are you currently involved in? That's your present. And then your future. Where do you want to go? What are your goals? And this is where you can throw in where you did your homework, right? You can be like, okay, I know this company. I looked them up online. I know what they're offering, right? That's where that future goes. And that can definitely change, and it should change every time you're talking to a different company or even for a different job position. But again, this doesn't need to be completely memorized, nor should it be. It should sound conversational, but you're trying to sell yourself to this employer in a conversational, confident way. So it can sound like, hi, my name is X, or I'm so-and-so, and I'm from Dumas, Texas. I'm currently an English major at Emerald College and saw you're hiring for a student worker position and would like to know more. Done, right? You've opened the conversation, you've opened the floor, and you've introduced yourself. You've told a little bit about yourself, and now they can, dive in like, yeah, we are looking for this. What are you looking for? And then just let the conversation flow. They'll ask you questions, you can ask them questions, and go back and forth with that conversation and just enjoy it, right? Enjoy the time, enjoy speaking with an employer, and put your best self forward. So again, knowing your 30-second commercial is past, present, future. Again, this will look different for every single person. And why I like to say where you're from is, who knows, maybe you're from some tiny town like Kittiquay, right? Kittiquay, Texas, tiny, tiny town. Maybe the employer's from there as well. Wow. Instant connection, right? That you just made that connection just based on where you're from. Super cool. This will look different no matter who you are or no matter where you're from, right? Because it's about you. This is your 30-second commercial, and you're able to tailor it to what you're looking for or to what you might be needing, right? And again, that last sentence, I'd be like, yeah, I'm looking for an internship. Do y'all have any internships currently that you're offering? I didn't see anything on our paper, right? Just asking those questions, or what you're interested in, or what you're even looking for. Or I'm just looking to learn, right? That could be your future. I'm just looking to learn about your company. What information can you tell me about your company? Done. Very clear last sentence that you're, engaging with them, and you're talking, and you're having an interesting conversation where you can learn and then they can learn about you. So do know your 30-second commercial. Don't be tardy. So make sure that you are on time. So you might have some great conversations going on, and you don't want to miss an employer if you need to leave. So say you've got like 5 or 6 employers that you're like, yeah, I really want to talk to them. They've got great positions open. Fantastic. Well, if you come to the fair at 3:30 when it ends at 4, you might only get to talk to 2 or 3 of them rather than all 5 or 6 that you were hoping to talk to, right? So make sure that you're early, if just at least on time, right? To make sure that you can talk to an employer before they choose to leave. Make sure we're respecting the employer's time. So enjoying the conversation, pick up on those social cues. If they're like, okay, thank you so much, have a good day. That's your cue to exit, and then choose a different employer to go talk with, right? So respecting their time, and by showing up early and being there early, you can respect their time later in the fair. And again, know which employers you want to visit with beforehand, so that way you can save time there. You're not having to sit there staring at the screen like, which employers do I want to see? But you already know. You already have it in your head. You can come in, you can be like, hey, I want to see this employer and this employer. We can be like, great, this one's busy right now, but we can put with this employer. Say, fantastic, thank you, on you go. Have those conversations, come back, and then the fair proceeds. All right, but be on time. Just a reminder, ours is from 2 to 4 on Wednesday the 17th. So got 2 hours to be able to communicate with employers. So definitely be on time. Do have your resume and your questions ready, right? So have these things ready at the go. So have your resume ready to screen share or email to an employer. So have your professional email pulled up or your school email pulled up, and have your resume ready. It's locked and loaded, it's ready to go. So that way you can send it to an employer if they request it. And so again, know which employers are there and which jobs are open, so you know which questions to ask. Like I said in that 30-minute commercial, that last statement can be one of your questions, right? Just, oh, hey, I saw this. What can you tell me here? Or hey, I'm just looking to learn. What does this look like, right? So just asking questions, but knowing which employers and which ones you want to talk to will help you with those questions. Benefits of a virtual fair, y'all, you can have your questions already typed up on a computer screen with you, or you can have them written out in front of you. That you don't get in an in-person fair. You can't just be like, oh, what was my question for you? Right? It might look a little unprofessional. But in a virtual fair, it's much easier to glance down and glance back up. So have those questions ready to go. Come to Resume Critique Day on Wednesday, June 6th, 2020. So we have Resume Critique Day coming up this week. I misspoke. This week, and it's 8 to 5, and it's all day. So you can come in and just have your resume critiqued. That way, come fair time, it is ready, critiqued, and good to go. So that way you can show it to employers. And request information from employers to follow up with a thank you letter or a thank you email, or even just application instructions. So ask them. Say they might not give it to you freely, right? It's a fair. You can't just go up and grab a pamphlet. This, we're going to have to communicate, right? Say, hey, do you have a link that I could go visit to learn more about your company? Do you have a business card that your email you could send me in the chat box so I could send you an email? Asking for that information or even just an email so you can send them a thank you. Thank you so much for your time, for talking with me at the fair. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future about jobs, right? Very simple. Normally at an in-person fair, right, we get a business card. In this, we ask, right? They might willingly give it to you. Maybe they might give you a website to go check out, but ask for that information so that way they can give it to you and you can contact with them to possibly get that interview and get that job. Big thing with job fairs, do not expect an immediate job offer. So be realistic. So these conversations are informational, right? We're gathering information, we're learning, and they might be like micro interviews, right? So first impression means a lot. They might be asking you questions, things that you might be like, okay, but be prepared. Go watch that interviewing webinar that we did a few weeks ago. These are micro interviews, so like baby interviews, where they're asking you maybe short questions, little questions, but they're getting to know you in these job fairs, right? But don't expect an immediate job offer. They might just be like, hey, great, we want to offer you this job right here on the spot. Probably not going to happen, right? I've never heard of that happening in a job fair. Maybe in an interview once or twice, but not at a job fair. So be prepared to apply online. Be prepared to follow up, to send your resume, to send that thank you note. And if there's mutual interest, they'll contact you for a follow-up interview. So make sure that you're sending them your resume, you're giving them information so they can contact you for that follow-up interview. Again, the job fair is a place where you can meet and connect with employers and then hopefully get those interviews and get those jobs. So now you're ready to attend our virtual job fair or even a job fair in the near future. So again, don't forget Resume Critique Day is June 10th from 8 to 5. It's come and go. And again, all of this can be found on our website, actx.edu/career. And again, the fair is next week on the 17th from 2 to 4. So if you have questions, this is the time. Again, if you need a resume critique, you can contact us for an appointment. Come in, we would be more than happy to work with you sometime. So we'd love to see you at the fair, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions about job fairs in general, about conversations, anything you may have. Love to hear it. Amber, are you there with questions or something? Jenna, hello.
Hi, sorry.
You're good.
Yes, so we do have one question, someone asking, how do you make yourself memorable at a job fair when the company may be seeing dozens or more people in a short amount of time?
Excellent question. So if you've already researched the company, that is going to make you, for one, memorable, right? If you already know, because I know I've been to job fairs before where, people just walk up like, hi, what can you tell me? Or what swag do you have? What stuff do you have, right? They're looking more to get rather than what they can give, right? So looking at the company, researching the company, say, hey, I looked you up online. I saw your values are this and this. How does that come about in your company? Right? Or yeah, I agree with those values. But knowing the company, people are going to be like, well, look at them. They really knew the company. Also visiting companies that you already kind of have an idea of what they offer and what you can do for them. So for example, I remember I was at a job fair a long time ago and went up to Target's booth. So Target had a booth at this fair, and I went up to them and started talking about planograms because I had been a supervisor in a cafe and was talking about things that related to their organization, and they offered me an interview on the spot for the next day, just because, for one, they had interview rooms set up and those kinds of things. But I knew the language and already knew what they might be looking for. So researching the company, researching the jobs they have open is going to be huge for you. For example, we have PMG is coming next week to our fair, and we know they have welding positions open. They have a few other machinist positions open, but knowing the language that a welder would know would probably be a good idea, right? Yeah. It'd be a good idea because you're looking to work at this company. So researching the company and making those things stand out will be really helpful for you in being memorable, especially if they're getting a flood of students.
That's great advice.
I'll also say make sure your personality is shown. So make sure that you are yourself. I want to add this one. That's what's fun. So we're not trying to put on a persona of this is my person. Remember, we talked about that in interviewing a little bit, that we want to be ourselves and we want to showcase who we are, right? It's your 30-second commercial. It's who you are. So don't try to put on a facade of, yeah, I can be whatever you need me to be, but know what you have to offer, know what you can do, and see what you can give to that company, and make sure you shine through as your personality.
That's really great advice. Looks like another question we have is asking how, if you go to a job fair and hand someone your resume, how long should you wait to follow up with them about a potential position?
It's a great question. So I would say probably 2 to 3 days, right? Depending on the length of the fair. So sometimes sometimes employers can have like interview days for the next 2 days after. And if you didn't get the interview during those interview days, for one, that might be a hint. But two, if you wanted to follow up, you could follow up. If you know their interview days, follow up the next day. Hi, I so enjoyed meeting you at the fair. I know you're here for interview days. Hello, I'd like to chat, right? So that's more of a requesting the interview, right? If you do get an interview, wonderful. Follow up with them, I'd say a few days later, giving them time to travel, settle in, right? I'd say 2 to 3 days is a good estimate if you haven't heard back from them by then.
Great.
Again, I'm like always like, well, it depends on the situation. It depends, but again, 2 to 3 days is a good rule of thumb. If you have questions though, if we're like, hey, I had this great conversation, I haven't heard from them, and it's the next day, give us a call and we can talk about those things on a case-by-case basis, just to talk about the conversation as well.
Gotcha. Well, it doesn't look like we're getting any more questions in right now. So I just want to say thank you for the great information, and I'm excited to see who comes to the job fair. And I encourage everyone watching this post recording, if you have any questions, to please reach out to Taylor. Her information is on the screen, and she'll help get you prepared and ready to go for next week.
And then again, too, I'll just kind of say this. We have job fairs that are going to be popping up every semester. So as of now, we have a nursing job fair. We're trying to get in the works of doing an industry job fair as well. And we're hoping in the future to get an all majors fair going or partner with other institutions to find something for all of our majors as well. So hopefully going to have more fairs. Go ahead, Jenna.
More opportunities to come.
Yes, lots more opportunities, especially when we get to be in person as well. Hopefully we can be in person and have in-person fairs as well in the hopeful near future.
Something to look forward to.
Exactly. Yes.
In the meantime, though, this is a great opportunity. So thank you for arranging this.
Absolutely. And again, they're looking to fill their job positions. So that's encouraging. If you're looking for a job actively, now's a good time.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Sounds good, y'all. Thanks so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye.